Good morning. Hello. Now here I'm going to explain about the 8 verses, which is today explain how to practice altruism in daily. So of course the author was Tibetan. Now before that, I think I want to tell you some points. Of course, now we human beings' requirement, the material facilities also necessary. I think everybody making effort for material sort of facilities. But at the same time, we human beings, I think beside the emotion, we also have this intelligence. We have much greater thinking power than the other mammals. So, in our case, certain problems, certain sort of experiences, mainly due to human intelligence. Intelligence creates a lot of new visions, or hopes, expectations, and sometimes suspicion or fear. So, intelligence itself, I think, something like potential for both happiness, suffering. So those problems or suffering which mainly created by human intelligence, I think sort of a countermeasure or antidote that cannot fulfill by the material requirement, but only through mental itself. So therefore, the various different, firstly, the basic human values, basic human good qualities are very important because of that sort of human nature. So human sense of caring one another, which is a sense of helping, a sense of respect other, and sense of oneness of humanity, these are very important sort of mental attitude. And then in order to strengthen these things, the various different traditions, religious traditions, really have great sort of role. A different way of approach, but same message of love, compassion, forgiveness, and self-discipline, and then contentment, so on. So, all have same potential. Now important, the religion or the, let's say, the spiritual method should be suitable according to one's own mental disposition. So and also I think make differences according to one's own familiarity. Therefore, we usually call one's own tradition become important because of the familiarity. So that makes differences. So in the, of course, New Zealander here, you have the native people, you have your own spirituality or culture, and your difficult language. I don't know a single word. The one I notice, when you speak, this is sometimes one word repeat 3 times, or second time, 2 times, like that. So in any way, the native people you also have some tradition, and then of course those Europeans who come later, then basically you are a follower of Christianity, and where some people may be follower of Judaism, some may be Muslim. So, then also among New Zealanders, I think some Chinese, or some, I think the Vietnamese, many of them traditionally Buddhist. Those who say non-Buddhist, I always prefer remain as your own tradition practitioner. It is safer. Change religion. Then sometimes at the beginning you may have little excitement, but eventually sometimes you may find a little sort of confusion. It happens. Therefore, it's better to keep one's own tradition. At the same time, some individual who really, I think, 2 choice, either take Buddhism or no faith at all, remain radical atheist. Then, as such sort of, I think, the case, it is individual right, to take Buddhism as one's own religion. In that case, although the individual case, the previous religion or traditional religion no longer much effect, but that does not mean your previous religion no longer any value among the humanity. Not that case. Now, for example, Christianity, millions of people in the past and today and the future certainly get immense inspiration from your traditions or religion, religious faith. Therefore, we must respect. And then those few Tibetans and maybe some Chinese, and some, as I mentioned earlier, those traditionally Buddhist, I think there are some. And then some Westerners who now, I think sincerely, they have interest about Buddha Dharma. Then perhaps some people, not necessarily any interest about religion, about Buddhism, but because you heard Dalai Lama speak, so you simply just come. So all right, so no problem. So, my sort of explanation, give some interest, and then listen carefully, but not much interest, and you can take rest. And some sleep also you can. But if you take some sleep, it should not make noise. Otherwise, you are kasa roboti sungri. Disturbs the horror. Not working. Switch. Take one minute. So in any way, make noise. So your next person may get disturbances. So silent sleep. So now I'm going to speak in my own language, Tibetan. Of course, firstly, it's much easier for me. And secondly, the other day I mentioned, I think today, at the beginning of the 21st century, since now last, I think, at least a few decades, more publication in English or French or German or Spanish and some other language about Tibetan Buddhism. But still, I feel the best language which can explain Tibetan Buddha Dharma or Nalanda tradition, I think Tibetan language is the best. So still I feel another, I think, few decades it will remain like that. So therefore, it is quite understandable when we explain about tradition of Nalanda, they use the best language, which can express more precisely. Okay. At the beginning, I mentioned as two the His Holiness. That's years ago. Has an actually years ago. The direction was actually. The direction was direction. Direction is. Again, we don't because we did this. The direction is how to much as the design.
Recently, I met a Tibetan who came to visit India, and he told me that he was working in Assam. He had a job there, and then I asked him, "Do you work in Chinese?" He says, "No, I don't really speak Chinese well." And he said that in fact, I'm a Tibetan, and I should work in Tibetan. I should speak Tibetan. Because if I don't speak Tibetan, who else will? So I think he has a point. So when I give teachings, I feel that I ought to teach in Tibetan. In one of the Buddhist texts known as the Sacred Names of Manjushri, we find a passage which states that the diversity of systems of belief and practice that we find reflects the diversity that exists among sentient beings in terms of their spiritual inclinations, in terms of their mental disposition, and in terms of their mental aptitudes and so on. And although this is explained within the Buddhist context where there is an understanding of there being three principal vehicles, the listener's vehicle, the solitary Buddha vehicle, and the Bodhisattva vehicle. And within the Bodhisattva vehicle, there is the Vajrayana vehicle as well, of which this quotation comes from. And all of these different vehicles, spiritual vehicles, they all perform the same function, which is to help practitioners tame their mental states and also help practitioners overcome the negativities and perfect their inner potential towards full enlightenment. So the moral that we can draw from this passage is that when we contemplate the diversity of spiritual traditions that we see on this planet, we can then understand that each of these different traditions really appeal to specific needs of different sentient beings, different human beings. There are so much diversity in the mentalities of people, in the spiritual inclinations of people, in the mental dispositions of people, and in the interests of people. And in accordance with this tremendous diversity among human beings, we can then see the effectiveness and the value of this great plurality of religions that we see on the planet. This is also reflected in another Buddhist text, Lanka Avatara Sutra, which is sent into Lanka, where again we find similar passages where it states that there can be many different systems of belief and practice, some which are aimed at all of which propound various ethical systems of practice and belief.
The light does sometimes. It's quite not only just light, but some heat.
In a sense, there is a competition going on here between the light shining from my bald head and the light coming from the top. But it seems the ceiling light is winning.
So therefore, my poor head a little suffering. 자상가 있니? 다른 신가도 딘내가지 통계 지 상제벌 시거당 나바 투베 공범민스 가 단지 답해주셔 지상 상제벌 좀더 시송겨야 돼. 저 상제벌 좀더 시송되잖아요. 이게 좀더 나은 편줄이야. 그게 다 따와면서 실수 되는 거야. 그래서 좀더 공허지.最为凶之在代为呢。大家心的最为凶代为呢，本来是男士啥就男士最为凶的这个，那呢，우모발 찾아와야 되는 갖고 전부 용되게 하래. 얘는 우모배 시진기 아니 광고 진지로도 잡아야 되는. 견지 전부 용기하래. 나 우모배 중에 엄마와 가는데잖아요. 얘는 엄마와 차다다 땅다 니가로 통되어 있어요. 아니 지금 두지 뭐 그거 용기하래. 근데 뒤서로 전에 다외 남사 선인들잖아요. 미치고 전부 요하래. 내리는 데 담절로 좀 된데 지기 전달해. 좀 된데 지기다 그래서 제설능에 직주 차대기 하래. 저상가 뒤 갔다 대선도 마세베 아니 가서 우리게 변한 웃음이 또 니가로 좀 된데 니기니 가콩스니 다 간다 잡진 롱기라 근데 이 인도 담바지 아니 따와면도 간다 이게 되는 지금 간다 쳐보여야 되게 따와면도 니 도스다 순대요 다디 가르쳐 순대 오다게 뒤제 감담도 나서야 되고 이 인상 아니 따와면도 송어래 아니 뒤제 감담도 나서고 디 소체지니 좀 되는 니지 런루기 왕 잠바체니 미송아 뒤제 감다 말 강 잠바지나 강 팜바지 강 죽어지 디 개체다 소체시니 뒤제 매바도 되니 엔다 다음에도 송셔가 되지 고도고도가 자 딘디인데 남자한테 지금 다 송균리야 지금 송로 공부다 송로 공부스니 야치요 좀 된데 니지 깔이야 다시 좀 캐라도 무슨지 시기야.
Another source of another resource that we find in Buddhism for cultivating the right appropriate attitude towards other spiritual traditions is by looking at the diverse philosophical schools that evolved within Buddhism. For example, among the classical Buddhist schools, they evolved four main schools: Vaibhashika, Sautrantika, Chittamatra, and Madhyamaka. And if you look at the philosophical tenets of these four schools, not only they uphold different philosophical standpoints, but some of them are actually contradictory to each other. And but all of these, and in fact, if you look at the philosophical literature that has evolved from the inter-school discussions and debates, we see tremendous area of disagreement and divergence and debate that has taken place between the proponents of these different schools. And also among, you can see between the mind-only school, the Yogacara school, and Madhyamaka school, there are again similar debates. For example, from the point of view of the mind-only school, they see the proponents of the middle way school as falling into nihilism in their interpretation of Buddha's scriptures. Similarly, the Madhyamakas, the followers of the middle way school, attack the followers of the mind-only school as not only falling into the extreme of absolutism, but also to some extent falling into, in some sense, falling into nihilism as well. So, yet all of these schools, except they are all the followers of one and the same teacher, the Buddha Shakyamuni, and they all cite authoritative scriptural sources to validate their understanding of the Buddha's teaching. So what we see here is this tremendous diversity and in some case contradictory metaphysical and philosophical views among the followers of the same teacher, and each substantiating their own standpoint by relating to the Buddha's own scriptures, Buddha's own words. So what we see here is that one and the same teacher has given different teachings, not only different, but in some cases actually contradictory teachings. And what this suggests for the Buddhists is the tremendous importance the Buddha has placed on recognizing the diversity of spiritual needs and inclinations and mental disposition that exists among his followers, so that he gives greater priority to the need of the diverse followers, rather than diverse practitioners, rather than presenting what may be his own final standpoint on key issues. So here, the essential point of the spiritual teachings is the appropriateness to the needs of individual circumstances. So this, whatever is most beneficial, whatever is most effective, whatever is of most appropriate to the needs of that particular context has to take precedence rather than simple statement of one's own final standpoint.
So the number nalone dendegi kasul kamda meba mindawalia and tembe sum menda nasho di ko sama kashmi michi deri munzin yunju zane di she nabo mayin bi chuju shada zoli ni titishin cheni oh da so be kamda meba sambe benji re jide go ba debe ji namsha 좀 더 주제지 소소 감다 meba samacheni adimi pamda chimbu yare sam transfer.
So if one can recognize this important point, that even within Buddhism, there is this diversity among the divergence in understanding the teachings of the Buddha, and on the basis of that, respecting this plurality of the Buddha's teachings. Once you have that kind of appreciation of the importance of this plurality within the Buddhism, then it is possible for the individual to extend this onto other spiritual traditions as well, such as the theistic traditions, where the belief in a transcendent being as a creator is a foundation. So we can see that the tremendous value of that theistic belief for specific spiritual inclinations. So in that way, we can then cultivate genuine sense of reverence and respect for all the major world religions.
다 낭출 관리야. 아니 또 좀 된데 그다 진주야 패시다 소셜 디베는 발리기 슝나를 여대버 찍다. 아니 렉샤 깨나를 여대버 찍이 다 니르 차드샤. 다 딘자로 나렌데 캐베 딘자로다 로존나 냠시나요레 삼십도.
So among the followers of Buddha's teachings, historically they evolved two main sources of lineage. One based upon the Buddhist canon that is that exists in the medium of Pali as a language. So it's the Pali canon. The other is the canon that existed in the medium of Sanskrit as the primary language. And in ancient India at the Nalanda University, monastic university, masters and teachers of Buddhism, they studied and practiced the traditions coming from both of these two lineages.
So that earlier, Sanjay Tamba, the Mema Tarim Zane, that so then Nalanda Kebe, Shishun Korasha. Perang Kimzinji, Peranga Shashani. The Jidabanda, Shung Tanga, Jidishun Tedriari, Sangata, Chujugane, Benaji, Kadokama, Jambe Kadune, Cheni, Didi Namdishun and Lambiari, and the Luri Teris, the Namdishun and Lambiari. Da, any Kada putting us at Didi, Sosuchi, Lolo Sin, Jamato the Master, Lolo Sin. 다 저렇게 대학이 슝디디 하나님 참으로다 날렌데 캐베 잠시에 슝스타래도
In terms of evolution of development of Buddhism inside Tibet, I feel that Tibetan tradition on the whole have really inherited and upheld and developed the tradition that came from Nalanda. For example, in my own personal case, right from the beginning of my own early education, when I was introduced to the elementary debates that involve understanding the relationship between different concepts of color, we can see that right at the beginning of my education, the many of the logical principles that are explained in Dharmakirti's Pramanavartika text were already being taught. And of course, when the typology of mental states are explained, which this discipline known as the Loreg, a study of mental typology of mental states, and Tagoreg, which is the study of science and reasoning. All of these topics are really extracted from Dharmakirti's Pramanavartika, which is a principal text. So we can see that in the study of, in the educational training that I've received, which is constituted by the study of 5 main topics, and the texts that are studied, which are memorized, which are analyzed, and which are debated upon, they are all composed by masters of Nalanda University.
In the Desert Master Perlia, she cannot show some dance on me, Sanjay Toma, the Perlia, Zun Zane, that you can do Tamjun Due, she has already 다 동준다 가다 뒤에 라랭 뒤에 냠네 엔 대다 쳐지 숭징기 샤바 디디 켄시 시워서 다 두고 시비 말이 다디 땡려야 엔 뒤제 체용셔려야 제는 상하 저거지다 하고는 상하 라면 저거 이제 그러는 것이 송체 독스나도와 저리는 지금 댐베 심어로 뒤에 댐바리 대단 셔지 숭징 장야 되리 켄시 시워서 다 두고 게 쪽으로 나와 있는데 켄시 시워서랑 나는데 다 캐베 죽진 제 차대요. 저 우체 캐베 오무 차대요. 광개배나 지 아도 우마견에 다가는 신이 패지디 세진 저제 shumshum 샤도와 저는 나는데 캐와 다 되네 광고 로마 ene kamala shile enia samyele peche kenji shiwo su kombo tsa chale jele di shu tu je na ba ibare khonyan na len de kya cha de yare en dene da tu chi su tamba chidar sha de go su be kodulia ene joji khajin diban gara da pebare khonyan na len de da kebe cha cha de yare en dimingi da 지 개발 monguda 별이야. 야간에 개발되는 monguda 개발도 중심인데 다 별 배대로 중인데 아래 어디서 제 배지 망세다 날엔데 롬니를 시다베 차리고 저들이 전에 별가 산지를 주주디 날엔데 개발 다 시기를 신 시대를 나다데 고다다 차리고 아래
Also, in terms of a chronological development of flourishing of Buddhism in Tibet, right at the beginning, and there was the trial of the abbot Chandrakirti, the monarch Tuzong Desen, and the mystic or Padmasambhava, and the master Padmasambhava. So when Buddhism first came to be fully established in Tibet, Chandrakirti played a very important role, not only in introducing the monastic discipline system inside Tibet, but also alongside the Vinaya tradition, the monasticism. He also introduced the scholastic tradition of studying major philosophical treatises, which came from Nalanda. And Chandrakirti himself was one of the most prominent, highly learned scholars from the Nalanda University. And so while this was going on, Padmasambhava also introduced the Vajrayana tradition in Tibet, initially to a selected few in a more sort of discreet way. And Chandrakirti was then followed by his own student, Kamalashila, who came to Tibet. So in this way, Kamalashila was also a great Nalanda master. So in this way, the tradition of Nalanda University was firmly established in Tibet, and especially during what is known as the second phase of dissemination of Buddhism in Tibet, Atisha Dibamkara Shirijana, who made a tremendous contribution to the development of Buddhism in Tibet, he was also a master from Nalanda. And in between, there were many other great Indian masters and also meditators who came to Tibet and made a significant contribution to the development of Buddhism, the Buddhist tradition inside Tibet. So given these historical background, I often tell people that Tibetan tradition is the continuation of the Nalanda tradition.
조지 치수다 불가마를 실리야 슈세인 버리 레디네 토마 조지 날렌다네 페르지 있어요. 간단히네 불가마를 실리 치수다 담바 다 전부 중입니다. 불가마를 실리 레디네 디디 야다래 네 루루 토미로 서고 디디던 자시베 슝데가 다 정리야 봐. 레디 디디에 베네 불가마를 실리 치수다 졸라가 롬니가 전부 차버리 뒤에 날렌데다 개베 시슝 강내지 차려서
The Indian master Atisha Dibamkara Shirijana later became a prominent member of the Vikramala Shila monastery, but originally he studied at Nalanda University, and in fact Vikramala Shila also was later established to continue and continue the Nalanda tradition. And in fact the texts that were studied at Vikramala Shila were all composed by great Nalanda masters such as Nagarjuna, Asanga, Vasubandhu and so on.
다 조직이 아니 호래 다오는 날림제 다 개베 시중사 그러져서 있나 다 삼대니 버딘 바래 대한 백로 호루루기 아니 상제 남지 최된 뭐 담반이를 양다된 시송대야 담반이를 때네 다 용대야지 그들이 인도산에 다디 담반이를 때인데 벌써 그러져서나 담담 호래다 담담 담바를 때문에 넘는 시도산에 아니 돈이도 다와 라디 당연히 하래. nên 대단들에 다외 남샤 다와 차라가 남샤 몽구에 되다 이리 다 different 하래. 다 되네 자체 람름스네 구조된 말 때문에 람름스잖아요. 도도의 창조성이 말해. nên 대단들에다 제 가셔올 거예요. 천진 남샤도 보다 치면 남샤도 보다 이제 상황로 다 구조된 말 때문에 람름이 고차되게 하래. 저들이 인도 담반이를 때문에 넘는 담아 용되게 하래. 저들이 인도 조직이 별이야. 엔다 상계 그게 더 소용도잖아요. 다가라 담반이를 때문에 다가라 하는 소용이 하래. 진짜 조직이 제 세계 토 엔다 좀더 버텨야 중에 좀더 버텨야 중에 공땡기니 말해. 상주기니 상주기니 그 다음에 다 조직이 계속되고 나한테 아니 레진이야 또 담바장이 다 되네마 아니 공개 달로면나리야 아니 가담 규숨신 아니 가담 숭바 가담 넘림바 아니 가담 나가버스니다 가담 규숨 총인 말이 다 되네마 가담 숭바 세야되니 좀 전에다 세게 토요제 아니 보도 가담 숭진 숭진 조리야 다 샤바나야 근데 그 다음에 다른 말 지금은 저기 다운디니 보도에 세지도 샤라와에다 세 차가와 다다 로마 소유 정에서 랑셔니 어떤 뜻이야 가서 보도에다 로마 샤라와다 랑을 타봐 다전에 막 샤라에 아니 다 가서 그게 아니 스타일 세지도 제 차가와 배지 렁탕배 뭐스다 싶으면 메신데 다 가다 랑산이네 마다 규제를 지셔니 차가워서다 띠 콩게다 언제셔버티 한다 띠 같이 말했다 내 주소신 그냥 네 저기 로전 되는거서 거르셨어 다 디 랑산이다 보도에다 그저 로맨체 랑산이 있으면 그 렁탕배 제셔래 다 가담 가서 로전 한다 책임을 져야 돼 차대요.
Then the question is, what exactly is this Nalanda tradition that Tibetan Buddhism has inherited and that the Tibetan Buddhism upholds? Here we can say that the Nalanda tradition is an understanding of the Buddha's teaching where all the elements of the Buddha's teachings are understood in terms of two key aspects of practices, one being those aspects related to the enhancement and cultivation of wisdom, insight into the true nature of reality, the other being all the elements of the teachings that are associated with the cultivation and development of the skillful means aspect of the path, which relate to such practices as development of altruistic intention, compassion, and so on. So here, in other words, Nalanda tradition is where all the elements of the Buddha's teaching are understood in terms of practices related, associated with the two truths, the ultimate truth of reality and the conventional truth. And those practices that are related to ultimate truth pertain to the development of understanding of emptiness. And those that are related to the understanding of conventional truth are those practices that are part of the skillful means aspect or method aspect of the path, where the key objective is to cultivate the altruistic intention and also as a preliminary to try to cultivate a deep sense of renunciation and some understanding of disillusionment towards mundane needs and mundane existence. So, and so this is the tradition that Atisha also further expounded in Tibet. And among Atisha's followers, his main successor was the Tibetan master Dromtempa, who remained as a lay practitioner. However, he succeeded to the throne of Atisha, and then from him evolved what is known as the Kadam school or Kadam tradition. And from Dromtempa, the Kadam tradition, the Kadam teachings branched into three main lineages, known as the Kadam lineage of treatises, Kadam lineage of Lamrim or stages of the path, Kadam lineage of essential instructions, and the Kadam lineage of treatises was inherited by Dromtempa's student Potowa, who in turn had two principal students, Sharawa and Langrithampa. And Langrithampa was the person who authored this well-known 8 verses on training the mind. I received the transmission of these 8 verses from my late tutor, Jebji Tijang Rinpoche. So first, as a preliminary to the teaching, we will do some recitations. These recitations pertain to what are known as the 3 daily activities. The first is the chanting of a verse that is paying homage to the Buddha by reflecting upon his great compassion and kindness and qualities. And second activity is a recitation of sutras. And the third activity is chanting a verse which involves dedicating one's positive potentials. We will do the chanting in Tibetan, so among the members of the audience, those who are practicing Buddhists, while we do the chanting, you should try to recall to your mind the enlightenment qualities of the Buddha, particularly his insight, wisdom, and compassion, and then reflecting upon that, try to cultivate a deep sense of veneration to the Buddha.
Sanjo Debo Timin Daveja, Sando Jawa Jolo Jawa, Jolo Zebo Zomoji, Yamin Jinjin Jolo Jawa, Bombo Duji Jandambo, Tamji Jimbo, Sona Yende Jalo Jin, Dijin Jolo Jawa, Tabe de Jawa Jolo Gering, Jolo 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 Chana Jala Yada, Lobo Damo Rodone, Shinga Damo Yende, Kindula Jawa, Dewaji Yamijaji, Gawa. Rangasene Yozonde, Dine Sanje Dabaye, Kamajare Mameda, Jumazava Juboda, Menora Dabo, Dijana. Sanamdi, Tanjesivaye, Kobantoni Jinjera, Kadana Doje, Sivazolan Rowa, Jogoro, Sho. Masam Jemishara Baraji, Majiminga Nangamoni, Suzora Yama, Tuzum Jere Yono Shazamo. Teada, Gade, Parangade, Parasam Gade, Budi, Hangate Jandavajo, Gabameva, Jimeva, Shabameva, Dameva, Wameva, Domeva, Dade, Jimmy, Travani, Jidam, Sabe Sanje Manaje, Tamba Della, Shazelo, Nendu Jevozono, Kushini, Jinji, Kanyada, Tola Gabajana, Lavini, Jinji, Rosa. Kanda yanda de tona namo kunde nazo de zomba ne de ju sambe so je sanje ji ni yum da la sha san lo no da da de shung di gi
This short text presents the practices of the cultivation of ultimate bodhicitta, ultimate mind of enlightenment, and also the conventional bodhicitta, conventional mind of enlightenment. So the first 7 stanzas of this short text present the practices of the conventional mind of enlightenment, and the last stanza present the practices of cultivating the ultimate mind of enlightenment.
Any Jube, Kuzuni Shang, Gabu, Gambejo, Teniki, Gabo, Indunzan, Gavin, Shuki, Gavin, the Kazu, Chodon Rose, and so on, Shingi, and any Jebu and the Kuni Buti, Suguda, Chuguni Buti, any Taishi Shuguda, any Ashu, Tangaga, and the Chuguda Sugu. Shugui, Dumachegi. Chuguchi already in it, ten digital potential. Panachi, Lunamdagi, Moni Shashan into Rashinamda Moni win into it. Then you would dance issue potential. So the Indusane, issue with the Mondruva, as would domestic Queen Moni would do never. Chazanga, issue would do in any tea, think Chinico, and 가서 뭐니고 그래야 돼. 그 정식 저리가 정식 차리고 와. 그래서 인도산에 이런데 아니 다 이슈 요구대 아니 라랑 정제 줄을 때네 탑과야 이 말이. 대 이슈 요구대 아니 저바터지 여시 시에 승리전지 인도산에 아니 올해 저바터지 여시 시에 승리전 아니 대코나니를 냠버샤비 냠샤들 라 당하면 돼. 냠지 로지고 규라만 소원은 신기. 된지지 영화래야 냐라 냠지 제베도 용투 야마래 냠샤들 라 메다는 주지 냠버샤고도 용투 야마데 이네 저버지 녀시 시외 저버지 녀 시외 주근 녀 시외다 가서 우리 취지 인수 아니 가서다 나와서 구조고 나와서 간 아니 친이 대코나니 응원도 주대버지 응원도 조고요 아래 중재주리 말에 자 Tini, Tunitabe Lodi, Tunitabe Lamcomia, Tunitabe issue, Tiki, Tiki, Chetikuri. That in a Sugusiadi, Sujukudi, and a Tamatagi, Tujimolia, number not so shutting a she, Yimbere. The name is an Duje come the Nova, not so shutting a good in the Jolia, Tango. Duje come the Nova, not so getting it, the tire never come. Any not so change, Simjan, Tadaga Chedo, Simki, the Simki, Simjan, Tadaga Chedo, any Rangshin, Mimber Chiari, Java the Leve, Tabi Shot Digi, Devi Negolia, and tire come the Nova, Samba, come the Nova, come the Nova, Samba, any queen now, not so shadiachi, you give it. So today isn't a day, Namdam Mangore, Dacha, today into Tapshin Yiganane, or Tabi Choy in body, or the Nidavida, Tabi Choy, any some Ninja give a Chanju, Chamada Ninja give a Chanju Sanda, Te, Simbe, any Chindu, that Tabi Chara, you know, so good reality to give it.
This text, as I explained before, presents the practices of the two minds of enlightenment, the ultimate mind of enlightenment, and conventional bodhicitta, the conventional mind of enlightenment. And this need for engaging in a practice where both of these elements are present is pointed out in Nagarjuna's Precious Garland, where he makes the dedication, aspirational prayer that may, through the perfection of the two accumulations of merit and wisdom, may I attain the enlightened state, which is the embodiment of Buddha's truth body and Buddha's form body. Similarly, we find in Chandrakirti's supplement to the Middle Way, where he compares the two truths, the conventional and the ultimate truth, as to the two wings of a bird, and through the usage of both of these wings, the bird can travel across the sky. In the same way, by means of these two minds of enlightenment, the ultimate and the conventional, one would be able to traverse the expanse of reality. So the point is that just as the Buddhist practitioner's ultimate goal, which is this attainment of Buddhahood, just as the ultimate goal of Buddhahood is an embodiment of two perfections, which is the attainment of Buddha's form body and attainment of Buddha's truth body, Dharmakaya. And when we speak of Dharmakaya, although there are other aspects of Dharmakaya, such as the natural body of the Buddha, which is the emptiness of the Buddha's omniscient mind, but when we speak of Dharmakaya, the real basis is the Buddha's wisdom mind, and which the Buddha's wisdom mind is characterized as an omniscient state of mind where one has gained insight into the deep nature of reality, and at the same time penetrates into the conventional aspects of reality as well. So in other words, Buddha's omniscient mind is a state of mind where one has gained total absorption into the emptiness of all things, where all forms of conceptual elaborations have come to an end, come to cease. So, and since that is the nature of the Buddha's Dharmakaya, therefore the path and that one cultivates to attain that must share some correspondence to that. And the path here is the cultivation of our understanding of emptiness, where one attempts to transcend all the conceptual elaborations. Similarly, the second aspect of the Buddha's enlightenment is the Buddha's form body. And the form body refers to the Buddha's assumption of diversity of forms in order to engage in activities that are beneficial to other sentient beings. And since the diverse forms of the Buddha evolves in relation to the tremendously diverse needs of sentient beings, Buddha's form body is characterized by diversity, multiplicity, and so on. And corresponding to that, while we are on the path, we must cultivate path that has direct bearing to this attainment of Buddha's form body. And here, the path principally refers to cultivation of bodhicitta, which is the altruistic intention to attain Buddhahood for the benefit of this infinite number of sentient beings who possess such diverse mental disposition and spiritual inclinations and mentalities and so on. So we must cultivate this altruistic intention to attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all these beings, and this altruistic intention must be grounded upon compassion for the compassion focused upon all sentient beings that aspires them to be free of suffering. So grounded upon this compassion, one cultivates this altruistic intention, and on the basis of that altruistic intention and motivated by that, then one engages into the practices of the six perfections. So it is through these combination of these two aspects of the path, the method aspect of the path, such as bodhicitta, and the wisdom aspect of the path, which primarily involves cultivating the wisdom of emptiness, one then aspires to attain the fulfillment of our spiritual, ultimate spiritual objective, which is the attainment of Buddhahood, that is, that it represents the embodiment of the Buddha's form body, Rupakaya, and Buddha's truth body, Dharmakaya.
탑식을 남니부띠기 에너 냠슬렘베 그돌이야 탑지신데 시럽지신데 탑스신데 탑식니부띠 야마저월 냠슬렘 고야래 안다 탑지 냠랭기 왕기 탑기 냠랭기 또기 이 시럽이 냠랭 권에 콘도 패야 시럽이 냠랭기 또기 탑지 냠랭 권에 콘도 패야 이거야래 배나 돈유도의 시럽기 아니 닝지지야리야 시우즈라 체용이야래 오 넘버 있나 제 다양 다가는 지금 인식 관계 또기 양지 초 딕딕장 초조니 양 동이 다와 냠용 지수를 배 누구르는 로트야기 양 편도 용되게 하래 저자가 탑신이 우리 직직이야 그게 다 로체야지 그 직직이 다 되야지 용되게 도와 애는 가는 또 규다 또봐 권의 권도 퍼야 돼. 아니 간다지 방자 아 보는 거 타네. 이제 다 또봐 토토 줘야 돼야지 그 시기야 돼. 당연히 나 소소 당고면은 등미지 보고서 소소 등미 보고서야지 그 견도 차나요. 그 김미롱 잠도 주땡이라고 되게다. 등미지 보고서야지 용되기도 와. 그래서 인도산에 그 간다니 지 방제지 고파 지 권내야로 지든 얘기를 매도하네. 이제 또 거다 권에 권도 해야지. 시기에 인도산에 로구에 인도 다다지 시주 때문에 또 권에 권도 해야지. 또 시럽체. 사과에 있는 산에 사 공원에 표현되잖아요. 냠샤가는 표현으로 말도 제대로 표현해야 돼. 그러나 냠샤디 균 고두데 다 발전하는 것이지. 대 방저 가야로 오지. 방배 아니 제야연도 토르잖아요. 거다 또봐야 권에 권도 더 넣어야지 용되기도 와. 그래서 인도산에 남주 또 표현해야 돼. 냠샤가는 표현해야지. 저기요. 근데 인도다 안 시민님이 되게 안 돼. 시민님이 땅아 가든가데 파랑가데 파라섬가데 부디서 왔을 때 되게 대야 타서는 다 디드디셔 디드디 아 가든가데 파랑가데 파라섬 부디서 왔을 때 되게 가다데 가든가데를 송시 그러다 송시 파르도 송시 파르도 양다고 송시 청주도 시수사지 자장가 송시 당군이 부디기 초랑도 쩔음체 송시 파를 써야 돼. 다 통long 터 인도자는 지대는 대화 차버리. 라긴 돈 유수도 더니 인도자네 다 지대는 대화 차버리. 사실 이 뭐 인도자네 파를 샤샤네. 송시 파를도 송시를 전에 다 통long 것도 쳐야지. 다 소지살에 대배 근데 파괴람 것도 쳐요 인도자네. 아니 파를도 송시스. 다당한 아주 예스디 가서 시보 코알 된 치바 소소교 탐해봐. 그다 런이 강도 있어도 수를 샤니 텔레드나 파를 이거래. 라자베 고바 토스베 가사지 시요나 시보 코아데 파르소 차데기 아래 딱 아주 아데 샤인들잖아요. 시보 코아데 런이다 두세 넷 샤니다 되네. 다 권에 공을 주대버지 다디 파를 지용就是파를 양대를 샤네 다 대초 가다 박배사도 이다 파르서 차고요. 근데 파르도 송시스. 파르도 양다 무슨 전에 아니 통신부터 컴버리지가 곰람 다 곰람 문도 채가 거네 다 곰람 가서 더블 표시해서 송시 파르도 양다 송시스. 대할 때네 청수도 시수도 년도의 청수이 년다 라산지 청수이 년다 대신의 청수이 년 다 안데 사이 남자 현실은 대신의 청수래. 자자가 청수 전부 대 아니 시수도 다 되는 것도 치사지. 사다리리 그 가시고 그 선하고 처하게 저하다 제배 이식 처하게 dob기 아니 그 사건의 공도 펼제 터도이니 제비고 방법도 쳐야 되는 소인 거래.
When we actually put into practice the two aspects of the path, the wisdom aspect of the path and the method aspect of the path, then it is crucial that we do so by always combining the two, that one is not isolated from the other, that it is important to always engage in the practice where one is complemented by the other and one is reinforced by the other. And in fact, when we engage in this way, we will come to understand that in fact one aspect of the practice does reinforce and further complement the other. For example, for those of higher faculty, and by deepening one's insight into the understanding of emptiness, it has a tremendous power to really enhance one's natural empathetic feeling, thus giving rise to stronger force of compassion. Similarly, by deepening one's experience of compassion, one can also expedite the process of accumulation of merit, which then makes it easier for the individual practitioner to deepen one's understanding of emptiness. So there is, we can see that how these two aspects of the path complement each other. And also when we speak of deepening one's insight and gaining deeper and deeper levels of realization, then here this process of deepening one's realization actually corresponds to the overcoming of different levels of one's obscurations or defilements, starting from the initial stage when, as a result of one's spiritual practices, one gains a temporary kind of ability to overwhelm one's negative impulses, and in this way gradually one will be able to reduce their force and gradually weaken their force and eventually eliminate them. So the process of overcoming our defilements goes in conjunction with the process of gaining higher levels of realization. And in fact, when we speak of gaining higher levels of realization in the Buddhist context, here we are speaking primarily of the processes of how one's wisdom and insight becomes more and more deepened, and because it is actually the wisdom aspect of the path that really enables the practitioner to move on from one level of the path onto the other level. For example, in the Buddhist explanation, we speak of the 5 levels of path: the path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of insight, and path of meditation, and path of normal learning. And the sequence of these, attainment of these levels of path are also explained in the Heart Sutra, where we find towards the conclusion the mantra Tayatha, which means it is thus, Gate Gate, which means go, go, and Paragate, Paragate, which means go beyond and transcend, and Parasamgate, which means go utterly beyond, go thoroughly beyond, and Bodhisvaha means firmly be rooted in the enlightenment. So this mantra in the Heart Sutra explains the process of progression into these, in terms of these 5 levels of the path. When the first 2 mantras, go, go, gate, gate, refers to the attainment of the path of accumulation and path of preparation, and paragate, go beyond, refers to the attainment of path of insight, suggesting that when you gain the path of insight, which is the direct insight into emptiness, then at that point one has transcended the state of ordinary existence. One has become what is called the Arya being, the noble being. And here the understanding is that referring one's own state as referring to this side of the shore, and go beyond as this kind of metaphor of crossing across the shore on the other side. And on the other side of the shore is, of course, the nirvana, which is the state of liberation. And by attaining the path of insight, one has already gone beyond our ordinary state of cyclic existence. So, and the next mantra, go utterly beyond, implies the attainment of path of meditation, which is essentially a state when the insight that one has gained, the direct insight, is further deepened through constant familiarity, and then eventually this culminates in the attainment of enlightenment, here the Buddha's enlightenment, where one has gained total transcendence. So the point is that this entire process of different levels of realization, ultimately culminating in the attainment of Buddhahood, is understood in the Buddhist context as a process of the combination of these 2 aspects of the path, the method aspect of the path and the wisdom aspect of the path.
대니 다 내도 서로다 다시 버켜라들이 좀된 뒤주 아니 따와 강라 리베 너용구도나 룽구콩 예배이네 다시 버켜나 말아 저 드림에 인도 다 우마베 대베 따와들라 다 원하나 저기 제요나 당시에 타도 쳐지 거야지가 내가 타고 들기들 차려야 돼. 되네. 네.
So we can see that the entire elements of the Buddha's teaching and the practices are really embodied in these two aspects of the path, the wisdom aspect of the path and the method aspect of the path, which is also sometimes understood in terms of the two accumulations, the accumulation of merit and accumulation of wisdom. And these two aspects of the path, method and wisdom.
최장의 나바 일을 쳤네. 최장의 나바 일을 시작하고네. 남고야지 패스트 가죠. 신이 나바 일을 시작하고네. 남고야는 패시서.
So these can be understood actually in terms of when the practitioner relates to the world, in terms of how one engages with the world. For example, if your engagement in the world is at the level of diversity of things and events and objects, then that is the method aspect of the path. Whereas if you are engaging with the world in terms of their deeper nature of reality, which is understood as the emptiness of all things and events, then that practice belongs to the practice of wisdom, cultivation of wisdom. And when we speak of cultivation of wisdom, obviously in the Buddhist context, this refers to the Buddha's teaching on no self, anatman. And this concept of no self or anatman is something that is universal to all the schools of Buddhism, except for a few subdivisions of Vaibhashika, but all the other Buddhist schools of thought accept the Buddha's teaching on no self, anatman. And within that, the Yogacara, the mind-only school, and the middle way school accept not only the concept of no self, but also the absence of selfhood, of phenomena as well. So no self of persons and no self of phenomena as well. And of these two, one maintains that the understanding of Buddha's teaching on no self, as understood by the middle way school, represents the final interpretation or final understanding of the Buddha's teaching. And this is done on the basis of reasoning. Any system of thought or any interpretation of the teachings where one can see inconsistencies and contradictions, these cannot be accepted as the final, representing the final understanding, whereas the middle way school's interpretation of no self in terms of emptiness is said to be final, because it is not vulnerable to any logical inconsistencies, and also it is something that can withstand critical analysis. So it is on that basis one makes the distinction between what represents the final understanding or what not. This kind of determination cannot be done on the basis of pure spiritual authority.
자다 우마베 다 소모 동반이 세안데니 tension deron juwa ka tene tongpa ni tu she tene da wa de ni ume la mi no se za shi na da su shi wa da di ma re tension deron juwa in ba gyunzen du chen ne ani mo ni zhe be dong le shi dan di ko lin lu de wo bu lu zhu ge ni sai ji tu na le ya ko le lu ya ma da da ni cha de ba re tene da Buddha-Politanalia, Pena Rakshi Tangu Sumbe Kadulia, Gyawacheba, Tanya Samdu Juba, Sini. Dani, Dalai Lama Shanimisia, Zashi Sutma, Gurney, Kanda Jana, and Tashi Gyawa Danima, Juni. The two to say Judella, Tundu Della, Tada Kaza, Gyawacheba, Tanya Samdu Jubu, Senata, Tanya Sami Sasungari. That the Tanya Sam said that the critical was Lona. Nanzam te masibr chana zaani ni gibi de chi ta mada majebe ngane ta namshan joya ta desam shi ta dele ya ini 단담 주식이보다 그거 주식이 더 로니 그리고 하는 샤워스나 낭좀 되게 가네 남산 낭좀 되게 가서 그래 나 마다 맞아봐 마다 맞아봐서 로디 탄이 주식 탄이 조식 그렇지 다가 안에 다 탄이에 로로 차고 있보다 탄이에 로 생기 민으버 자서도 봤어요 지도 탄이도 차고 되는 대로 단점 주식이 그게 민으버지기 때문에 다 탄이도 요샤야 이 말이 어떤 낭좀 대 말씀 봐 대 주수 컨디션도 대 주수 지도하신 동념도 재성님네 단점 주식을 두고 하래 자 저는 이제 안에다 안들이 가사 겨워져 탄여성도 들어와서 전에 마다 맞제배 안에 다어지 긴지 세하게 겨워지 캬라고 마도 겨워되게 뒤로 친듯이도 대정신 그듯이도 발자하시면 사는 이야기야 말이지 정신이 뭐 주고 돼 있어 다 대니 베십지 아다 받아 나와주고 우모주고 나래야 테니 티니도 지금도 나버 든지 두줄 미미기 있어 지금 강사스 돼야 돼 아니 대코나 니도다 뭐주고 아장장데 타냐섬도야 넘버 든지 자니냐요 말이스 테니 티니도 지금도 넘버 든지 두줄 미미기 다오는 예니 예버래다 유로 가르슬라나 남제 매버렸다 낭섬 다게 스버지다가 샤샤마도 넘버 7 매버 낭섬 대모 심버 제베 남제 매버 아니 차베권에다 이거래스 나 텐니도 지den도 넘버 든지 두줄 미미기 남제 매버 지den 일인들 랑게야가 때는다고 인생다 지den도 차베권에 라랑게 아니 견도 샤샤라 때네 땅삼시레스 어때서 그래 사실 인도산에 다원 되게 땡중 코앞에 참을래인 거래 다 따서 때네 주버지 코라 쳐 간다 강이네 코라 뭐인게 집에 때네 딱 버치레스 또 앞에나 강사들도 풍부를 때네 강사 셔요래 풍부도 강사 말에 풍부선에 강사 선시 때는 줘야 매가래 강사 싸우는 맨댕이 집에 때네 강사 따는 거야래 근데 딱 보면 세면너바 매베 태점시겠다 예버 지규레마도 텔레로스 유딩리야 유딩네 니야 여버지 싸우는 거 말이지 자상가 좀 내가 던하리야 민점 다점 타냐점 송대하디 따단 주고도 봐 전경문에 주버지야나 민점 말봐 민두니스 체레 나 전시 코레 전된에 주야지 예버 있나 민점을 해도 봐 다안더디 민민배 된 매라 말해 민민배 된 예버래 민민배 된 여래디 이네 된디 샤가시고 있나 민경왕 권에 좀 마도 전경문에 셔야 합니다 자 이제 인도전에다 땡주고와 처무지기 때문에 다 또다 버시 또다 인도전에 또가 딱서 뭐인데 랑면을 주거디 각자를 샤니 대동배 춘이 되다 전남기다 인루터도 디셔야 해 자 이제 인도 동바 땡중 태어나셔 땡중 동배 태어나셔 동도 땡중 세야 나 인주 다음에 뭐 땡중 동배 뭐다 동바신 시기할 때 이내 고하고 영주 따단도 되지 자 이래 이면 이러잖아요 나와 땡dim밀로 예배 때문에 선언 처사 동바 정신이 동 원이 주변 동에 내로 예배 때문에 이식 처사네 간다 땡중 준제도 시대 동바 주의잖아요 이 최신 걸 가다디 땡시 걸지긴 나네 선언서도 이식 선 이걸로도 돼야지
So what is this profound understanding of emptiness, profound understanding of no self in terms of emptiness that the middle way school propounds? Here, Nagarjuna writes in the fundamentals of the middle way, he writes that whatever is dependently originated, I call that to be empty, and this is dependently designated, and this I call to be the true middle way. So what we see here is that a true understanding of emptiness in the middle way school really must take place in terms of emptiness in terms of dependent origination. So where dependent origination is really seen as the very reason to understand emptiness, that dependent origination is the very ground from which emptiness arises. So in terms of interpretation of Nagarjuna's thought, they evolved historically two lineages of interpretation, one represented by Bhava Viveka, the other by Buddha Palita and Chandrakirti and so on. And in Buddha Palita's work, when he comments upon Nagarjuna's teaching on emptiness, he explains that when we analyze things and events, if our understanding of things and events, and particularly the world of cause and effects and the world of plurality, multiplicity, if we understand this conventional world of everyday reality in terms of how we engage with them within the bounds of conventional language and reality, then that manner of relating to the world is at the level of conventional truth. Whereas if we remain unsatisfied with that level of everyday experience and conventionality, and then go beyond that and probe further and ask when something comes from something, when an effect comes from a cause, if we inquire further and ask in what sense it comes into being, what is the exact relationship between the cause and effect, is it identical, is it independent, and so on. The moment we probe into that kind of deeper question, then we are engaging with the world at the level of ultimate reality. So Buddha Palita explains that when we critically subject cause and effect in that kind of process, we will find that they are unfindable. None of the concepts of cause and effect, none of the concepts such as origination and cessation will really withstand that kind of analysis. So therefore, when we engage with the world, we have to do so simply at the level of everyday experience of conventional truth. This is then further explained by Chandrakirti in his supplement to the Middle Way, where he explains that the true understanding of emptiness must occur when not only has the individual understood all things and events as devoid of inherent existence, but also that once, especially when you subject all things and events to critical analysis, where he employs a 7-point analysis, when you subject them to that kind of 7-point analysis, then you will come to realize, even in the conventional sense, things and events do not withstand that kind of critical analysis. For example, let us take the concept of person. If we were to look for a person, among its either the mental or the physical constituents, then we will soon come to realize that person is not to be found either in the body nor in the mental state of the individual. Yet, on the basis of mind and body, physical and mental constituents, we still identify a person, we label it, and also we can function, we can operate and function on that basis of convention. So Chandrakirti explains that one must understand the reality of all things and events along these in such terms that they are devoid of inherent or independent existence, yet they possess this degree of reality at the conventional relative level. And in this way, he explains that so the real understanding of emptiness must entail a deeper appreciation of the interdependent nature of reality, that all things and events come into being as a result of dependence on other factors. And therefore, by using this recognition, this appreciation of the dependent nature of reality, one can then arrive at the conclusion, yes, things and events are devoid of inherent existence. So in other words, dependent origination and the absence of inherent existence are two sides of the same understanding, the same nature. So, and it is by deepening one's conviction in the efficacy of the laws that we see, the laws of cause and effect that we see in the conventional world, that one enhances one's practice of accumulation of merit, and it is by deepening one's conviction in the truth of the teachings on emptiness, particularly emptiness as understood as absence of inherent existence, one will be able to cultivate the accumulation of wisdom.
Yeah. 다시나 다대달 내가 나와 던진 밀로 뒤 때문에 아니 다 아, 상관없어 신세리 라가 강게 동네면도 버지다 대원도 버여다 봐 라신 상관없다 동네면도 대원도 봐 찍고 임바 엔다 라신 상관없어 제 동네 다 대시 내주는도 좀 상담이나 다 대니다 아니 대시 남샤도 하네 봐도 상담이나 동네 세롱이甚至是유에서那个때문에 막 자인도 아니 동네 세롱이 봐 다 tellatene 다 안다 탐셔로 아니 다 가서 동네 세롱이 뭐지 임바다 되네 랑지부 다 가서 그게 제번진이 다라 지다 삼대에 있는 대 레부들라 샹든 조심해봐 거라 랑드야 줘야매다 그지 샹진진기 상원스담에 있는 랑든 샤라 조용지 닝보이니 그 다다버도 랑집은 집에 진진다 다도 집에 덴진이부터 말한서 닝그 의리야 밀음 순저로라 남도야 저하면 봐 배다 닝그 노르지 대비 저 근데 인도산에 다 랑집은 집에 진진다 다도 집에 덴진이부터 되게 지들 내가는 지금 전시 조교야나 다들 다 조고야 이나야 동네에서 찾아내지 진짜 영대야 되다 다도 집에 된지다 라지는 집에 진진이고 되게다 가서 좀제로 쓰내면도 다 크도 들리면도 와. 그래서 근데 인도산에 다 동네 사람들나 다 동네 안도보다 다 동네의 정신이 새롭게 기마시면 영대야지 다도 집에 된진다 진진이고 되게 다 왕기 중앙시보다 셰프야 돼. 근데 이 인도산에 다 디멘스지 제가 그게 냠용지 되어이나 다도 집에 된진다 라집에 진진이고 될래야 시 수르된 당도 매려 대로 수르된이 에네 다 상호사하시다 하고요 당시 사하시고 걔데 다와나 라집에 진진다 다도 집에 된진을 봐 수르대체 다들 봐지 잠겨서 대버이나 에네 저거 가려서 대버이나 다 특별히 주시면 되면 담아거든 전에 뒤 닫아봐도 원해지 라지를 진진다 나도 집에 된지니까 술때니 달려야 되겠다 가서 그 탕도 매려면 뒤 독셔네 아니 답이 년부 때문에 강사디디 기부 한번디도 사무실 담에 있는 나와서 됐잖아 디디 아니 라지를 집에 진진의 님인데 신집을 집에 진진 탕도나 나도 집에 된지는 님이 있을 때는 담이도 싫어리야 로 코머체 디주르체 대락절이야 아니 샹든 직주되게 대샤라 랑든 사상주되게지 용되기도 와 그래서 주주는 소원은 시기 아니 너는 집에 가서 좀 간다다 산제 샹든 무슨 생각다 아니 마도 샹든 무지그스 망도 샤도 메주고 집어란 게 되서 특징이 돼서 리인이 차벌 뜻 소원은 신기 다 라지버스 비진진기 상황도 라지버스 비진 나도 집에 된지 상황도 담보이나 만족 그득들이 라지버스 비진 다 아니 아사 나도 집에 된지 겹된체 아니 현지버스 비진진다 담이도 비시로리야 아니 kumji temple 라젤이야 산신된데 경에서 연애 군데 뒤초이 말이 그래서 근데 인도산에 다 말하는 제가 소리 다 셈이야 자주니 다 다도 집에 된진이 니미스타지다 다른 년 못해야 지다 아니 라지버스 진진이 니미스타다 다른 년 못해야 다 디니부터 다 기부 초기 랭게
So now, to speak of our own experience at this level of conventional truth that we spoke of, this is the world of cause and effects, this is the realm of everyday experience of diversity and plurality. Here, we all, on the basis of our own personal experience, we all possess this natural an instinctive desire to overcome suffering and wish for happiness. So this is a natural fact of our existence. Similarly, we all possess the potential to overcome suffering and potential to achieve happiness. And this, especially from the Buddhist point of view, one can reflect upon the teachings of the Four Noble Truths and teachings of the True Truths. And on the basis of that, one can also cultivate an understanding of the possibility, there being a possibility of gaining freedom from suffering. And in this way, one can develop a deep understanding that yes, suffering is, there is the potential for bringing about an end to suffering. And so when you recognize that, then you reflect further and then contemplate that just as I myself, all other sentient beings possess this same natural fact of wishing to be happy and wishing to overcome suffering. However, if I continue to be guided by self-centeredness, by only being concerned about my own well-being and continue to be oblivious to the well-being of other sentient beings, what would be the consequence of such a way of being, such a mode of being? Then one should reflect from the Buddhist point of view that reflect that since beginningless lifetimes we have lived a way of life where we have harbored this self-cherishing, this self-centeredness, self-cherishing, cherishing one's own well-being, this self-cherishing and also grasping onto some kind of inherent existence of self, some kind of enduring self. So we have harbored these two thoughts, the self-cherishing, the thought which cherishes one's own well-being, the self-cherishing thought, and the grasping at self, self-grasping thought. We have harbored these two and nurtured them deep in our heart as if they were twin jewels, and we have nurtured them throughout our beginning lifetimes. And then ask the question, where has this way of living really led us to? If simply by pursuing the dictates of this self-cherishing, self-centeredness, and self-grasping, if one can actually attain the fulfillment of our desire to gain and to fulfill one's self-interest, then certainly by now one should have achieved the goal. But this is, however, not the case. Then one should reflect upon, in this way, one should reflect upon the disadvantages of harboring and nurturing such self-cherishing and self-centeredness, self-grasping, and then compare ourselves to other great beings, such as enlightened beings, such as the Buddha Shakyamuni, who has attained a state of enlightenment, which is an embodiment of total overcoming of all defilements and perfection of all qualities. And how did Buddha attain such a state of being? Then we will come to realize that Buddha at certain point had reversed this way of being, and instead of harboring and nurturing these twin thoughts, the self-cherishing and self-grasping, he had turned his back on to these two thoughts and cultivated in the place of self-cherishing, the thought cherishing the well-being of other sentient beings, and in the place of self-grasping, he has cultivated the wisdom into the absence of self-existence. And in this way, he had attained this enlightened state. Just as Shantideva points out in his Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, where he writes, what more is there to be said? Compare the fate of ordinary beings like ourselves who wander in the cycle of existence and who have cherished one's own well-being, and compare ourselves to the fully enlightened Buddhas who have cherished the well-being of other sentient beings. So reflecting upon the disadvantages of self-cherishing and self-grasping, and reflecting upon the advantages and merits of cherishing the well-being of other sentient beings, and the advantages of cultivating insight into the absence of self-existence, then one should develop a sort of a new resolve to turn our backs towards these two thoughts, twin thoughts, and then try to cultivate a new way of being, a new way of thinking, so that from here on we will lead a new way of being or new way of life.
Yeah. So that is and long term by and local chicky this job. So soon job. So soon not lolly and the time job this one short side membership comes. Then and potential driver somebody that was Zimbo com. Come to Sudan over the new man, and somebody tower short of Zimbo comes. This one. That day, and the new turn there at the later, Melong to the chain in shop says the judge. So that day, it's a tango down the Tani, Simjan Tanjala, Ishi no will have a potential driver somebody that was Zimbo Shaw, so they are digging. That man of them you. 다 세도 사실지 현세야데 야워토데가 당님샤데 다디 말레스 심전 심전 탐절로 나가들고 심전 탐절로 아니 그 이신이 노분나신 건조 탐제변 중요하게 아니 유지레스 근데 인도 랑 내고도 더도 되든 중요하게 배 아니 이신이 노부터 그래 근데 인도산에 대대비다 가서 유를 때니 신 담발을 때니 애는 다도 그게다 제법 좀 공고를
So the first verse of the 8 verses of training the mind, 8 verses on training the mind, we read, may I always cherish all beings with a resolve to accomplish for them the highest good that is more precious than any wish-fulfilling jewel. In the original version of this text, the word, it was not written as an aspiration, it was written as a kind of a statement of resolve. So instead of reading, may I always cherish, in the original text, version of the text, it reads, I shall always cherish, I shall cultivate to always cherish. However, later, this ending of the stanzas have been turned into a form of aspiration. So we read, may I. So what this first stanza states is that in our normal way of being, we tend to be always concerned about our own, in fact obsessed with our own well-being, and we are totally oblivious to the well-being of other sentient beings. When we think of the other, we tend to be either completely ignore them or we are simply not interested. And the author is suggesting that this is a mistaken way of being. And
exploitation.
And also, in the worst cases, sometimes we are even prepared to exploit others for the fulfillment of one's own ends. So the author is suggesting that this is a wrong way of being for spiritual practitioners, and one must first of all try to reverse this attitude and regard all other sentient beings as almost as precious as the wish-fulfilling jewel, and then relate to them with that kind of veneration and recognition of their greatness.
자, 태양, 제 먼저 주발이야. 미기 주봉 수준이 되는 먼저 주고야 돼. 미기 주다 소주 라서 디디신 디 담배 타네 미기 주봉 수준 양수 랭고 예바 연도 소주 방와라 소주 소죄야게 하다 시지 차 소죄야게 고급 차상 중 고급 차상 중배 탈이야 아니 소주가 이미 돼 그다음에 소주로 dom선 때니 소주 방야 돼 소주 방배 겨야 돼 영국 여름마다 소주 제약 그거 자원에 매질이야 내 소주 방배 인슬려야 매봐 돼 사진에 있는 미기주 다 룡하고 듬부다 룡하고 듬부데 가다 어떤 나스는 내 패지 누구한테 내스는 패지 누구래 제가 가다 여인이 유심전을 때네 아니 딕벨레 서비어리 근데 인도산에 딕벨레 뽕알이야 딕벨레 담발라 아니 유심전을 때네 담과 쳐도 자 근데 인도 먼저 줘야 돼 유심전을 때네 먼저 줘야지 공도 다다가는 신건도 때려야 체르와 내매봐 롱지쳐와 년자쳐와 식준바 가서 그게다 왕쳐와서 봐 드니버다 드니버 드니게다 상고인의 뒤에 샹게 쏠르바 샹 세다다 아 샹래야지 가서 그게 맨다 그걸로 써봐 드지바 드니게 타네 아니 샹랑 그 뚜두고 샹랑 그 귀쇼쳐봐 샹래 띵심미시바 샹 고고미동 드니게 때네人才人苏上龙之桥这准吧王大桥地理用这的印度我对旅店给上个人的一点上个天气的一点有什么样的用过呀但是呢年龄他把了呀老是我们那个团长中国呀嘞但定这个老是下个没是我老是下个没信的大概的老把定有的用了最终个老把团长用过最终个老把做的你是单的的用过呀嘞现在写的这么短吧是啊地点呢그 영화 인도 간다지 뭐도 내리 강조야 있네요. 유심절 때는 영화야. 사월도 아니 이 거다 가서 잡게 매도 중에다 로이 연대 답의 현실을 전주선. 그다 세야 텐데르다 라나메베다 셈 텐데디 유심절 때는 영화야. 아래 닝질 때는 영화야. 장발 때는 영화야. 장발은 인진장로 미국 심절을 미네. 대외 pompe 심절을 미네 아니 참바 동의전에 심절을 미네 닝지 용고여 인도산에 간다 닝지 미고 심절 버실을 때네 아니 참바도 닝지 냠네 용되게 하려 텔을 때네 아니 답의 신집에 자주 선사 라나메베 셈디 텔되네 용되게 도와 아니 사람도 또 전주선에 사람도 또 어디 참을로 자주선 권에 본도 배워 데이터를 되는 용고여 인도산에 탐자로 조심실 되는 용돼야 사진의 인도 유심제 운동엘에 강 주발라야 유심제인데 아니 단저 주베 아니 유차도 하고 돼
So the point about all sentient beings being similar to a wish-granting jewel is as follows. For example, from the Buddhist point of view, even the attainment of birth in the higher realms is dependent upon one's interaction with other sentient beings. For example, the key factor for the attainment of rebirth in the higher realms is said to be observing the ethical discipline of restraining from the 10 negative actions, the negative actions of body, speech, and mind. And if we take the example of, say, the ethical discipline of refraining from killing, even to observe that ethical discipline, it is impossible to maintain such a discipline without the presence of other sentient beings, because the act of killing takes place when an individual takes the life of another sentient being, and therefore a true ethical discipline of refraining from killing can only occur when there is an opportunity for the individual to kill. However, despite that, one adopts a deliberate ethical stance and then shuns from indulging in such an action. So here, even to observe the ethical discipline of restraining from killing, the presence of other sentient beings plays a role. Similarly, in all the other ethical actions of not telling lies, not stealing, and all of these, the presence of others play a crucial role. And also, when one has already attained the birth in the higher realms, many of the secondary characteristics of one's existence, such as in the context of human beings, one's so to observe the ethical discipline, the 10 discipline of restraining from the 10 negative actions, the presence of other sentient beings is indispensable. Similarly, many of the characteristics of our existence are said to be, from the Buddhist point of view, fruitions of, again, positive ethical actions, such as one's physical appearance, longevity, the fact that one's words carry a certain weight, that people regard them as reliable, that all of these characteristics of an individual person are, from the Buddhist point of view, recognized as consequences of one's ethical actions, of either rescuing sentient beings from death, or giving charities to other sentient beings, or helping other sentient beings through other means, and also not deceiving other sentient beings. So these are ethical actions which give rise to some of the positive qualities that we value as human beings. And also in terms of the attainment of liberation from cyclic existence, attainment of what is called the definite goodness, the transcendence from cyclic existence, even here the presence of the role of other sentient beings is again indispensable. For example, in the Buddhist understanding, the key spiritual practice that leads to the attainment of liberation are known as the three higher trainings in morality, higher trainings in meditation, and higher trainings in wisdom. And both the higher trainings in meditation and wisdom are based upon the foundation, which is the higher training in morality, for which the presence of other sentient beings is indispensable. So when you reflect along these lines, we will come to realize that the role of other sentient beings is indispensable in all areas of our activity and also our aspiration, and especially for those who are practitioners of bodhicitta, the altruistic intention. It is necessary to first cultivate compassion towards all sentient beings, and also loving kindness towards all sentient beings. And these compassion and loving kindness are defined in terms of compassion is the wish that aspires all sentient beings to be free of suffering. So it is focused upon other sentient beings' suffering, while loving kindness is a state of mind that aspires all sentient beings to enjoy happiness. So here, again, the focus is sentient beings. So both in the practice of loving kindness and compassion, the focus is again other sentient beings. So on the basis of these two states of mind, then one cultivates within oneself this wonderful and most admirable and unexcelled attitude, which is the bodhicitta, the altruistic intention to attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So we can see that throughout all stages of spiritual development in the Buddhist context, the role of other sentient beings is indispensable. So when you think along these lines, then you will come to recognize what is meant by viewing all sentient beings as precious, as a wish-fulfilling jewel.
Yeah. The theory, 추중립의 공헌을 가지고 이제 칼랑 고수 고월 봐. 그 칼라디 공제의 도스 체베리. 이내다 아주디 도도자 나리야. 뻥도도 샤브나시. 되는 거 아니나 자원이 더 세니. 다 랑도 시마샤브 지지다 셴이도 시세니. 이니 뻥도만이야 샤브다. 사는 디는 시체 다 안당한서 싱가포르 자인 템퍼처.
The break here, and it's almost 1 o'clock, but for the members of the monastic order with the full ordination vows, one of the precepts is not to eat after midday. So the lunch normally has to take place before 12, but today obviously this precept cannot be observed. So there are, however, allowances made in the sutra itself, where in specific situations where one can do so by means of dedication. So for the members of the monastic order, maybe we can pretend that we are today living our day according to Singapore's time rather than New Zealand time.
Thank you.